Our final speaker today is Keith Bennett. Keith is an active member of the International Manifesto Group, and I should add the editor of the IMG website and also the affiliated New Cold War website, which is our news and analysis website. He is a consultant specializing in Chinese and Korean affairs and has been a close observer and student of socialist development in Asia for half a century, and is currently co-editor of the Friends of Socialist China website and deputy chair of the Kim Jong-il Foundation, which is shortened as KKF. So Keith, we're very eager to hear from you.
Thanks very much, Radhika, and thanks for inviting me. Thank you to Ken for his wonderful and often very moving presentation, and also to Carlos. I'm not sure if it's a good thing to be the last speaker, particularly when you're followed by two such brilliant people, but nevertheless, that's the role that's been assigned to me today. Now, looking at, we've heard various things of what Marx had to say about the Commune. I'm just going to start, therefore, with just one more at the moment, which is that Marx described the Commune as being, quote, the dawn of the great social revolution, which will liberate mankind from the regime of classes forever. And incidentally, following on from Ken's talk, I came actually in preparing for today, I came across that quote from a 1971 Paris Commune centenary article in the Peking Review, writing about how the Internationale came to be written and came to be the anthem of the international working class movement. However, in analysing what a workers' government might look like, basing themselves on the Paris Commune, Marx and Engels, in analysing what a workers' government might look like, Marx and Engels only had the Paris Commune to go on, brief and limited as that historical experience was, and they could only assess it from afar and not as direct participants. Marx himself never used the phrase dictatorship of the proletariat to describe the Commune. That designation fell to Engels when he posthumously published Marx's writings under the title The Civil War in France. And like any political statement, it can't be separated from its concrete context. It was, in this instance, it was Engels' increasing concern at the reformist drift of the Second International, and especially of its major component, the mass membership German SPD, that particularly occasioned this remark. And this can be seen from how Engels phrases that observation, which he does as follows. He says, of late, the social democratic Philistine has once more been filled with wholesome terror at the words dictatorship of the proletariat. Well and good, gentlemen, do you want to know what this dictatorship looks like? Look at the Paris Commune. That was the dictatorship of the proletariat. Marx, however, did note, and I think actually this has already been used today, that is the Paris Commune's true secret was this: it was essentially a working class government, the produce of the struggle of the producing against the appropriating class, the political form at last discovered, under which to work out the economic emancipation of labour. And for his part, Lenin observed, as Ken remarked, Lenin referred to the Commune on many occasions, and I'm going to give two brief quotations here. The first is from Lenin's article, The Tasks of the Proletariat in Our Revolution, and the second is from the theses and report on bourgeois democracy and the dictatorship of the proletariat, given at the first Congress of the Communist International. In the first one, Lenin said that the Soviets and, quote, reproduce the type of state which was being evolved by the Paris Commune. And in the second remark to the first Congress of the Comintern, he says the Paris Commune made the first world historic step along this path, the Soviet power the second. Now, I would say that implicit in this is the idea that Soviet power constitutes a more advanced experience than the Paris Commune. In his recently published work on socialist governance, Professor Roland Bohr notes that the extreme democracy practiced by the Commune has led many Western Marxists to idealize it as the highest example and the template for working class power. And Bohr cites, among others in this regard, examples of Hal Draper and Ralph Miliband, amongst others. Marx, however, again indebted to Professor Bohr for this, observed that the Central Committee surrendered its power too soon to make way for the Commune. Lenin, for his part, and this is from a 1908 article of Lenin's entitled Lessons of the Commune, Lenin writes, although the socialist proletariat was split up into numerous sects, the Commune was a splendid example of the unanimity with which the proletariat was able to accomplish the democratic tasks which the bourgeoisie could only proclaim. Without any particularly complex legislation, in a simple, straightforward manner, the proletariat which had seized power carried out the democratization of the social system, abolished the bureaucracy, and made all official posts elective. However, he continues as follows, but two mistakes destroyed the fruits of the splendid victory. The proletariat stopped halfway. Instead of setting about expropriating the expropriators, it allowed itself to be led astray by dreams of establishing a higher justice in the country, united by a common national task. Such institutions as the banks, for example, were not taken over, and Proudhonist theories about a just exchange, etc., still prevailed among the socialists. The second mistake was excessive magnanimity on the part of the proletariat. Instead of destroying its enemies, it sought to exert moral influence on them. It underestimated the significance of direct military operations in civil war, and instead of launching a resolute offensive against Versailles that would have crowned its victory in Paris, it tarried and gave the Versailles government time to gather the dark forces and prepare for the blood-soaked week of May. For me, perhaps Marx's most succinct summation of the Paris Commune was made in 1871 and comes right at the start of the chapter on the Paris Commune in the Civil War in France, namely, and this has been alluded to already today, I think, by Radiker and twice by Ken, this one sentence from Marx, but the working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes. Now, like any statement, particularly any statement of Marx, Engels, or Lenin, this has to be assessed dialectically. First, I think it should be made clear that there are simply no examples of the working class assuming electoral office and going on to build socialism on that basis alone. Indeed, many parties of the working class movement, or at least nominally of the working class movement, actually had or have no intention of doing so. Although this is not to say that such governments are not capable of introducing progressive reforms favourable to working people. Nevertheless, the ways in which the working class and its allies have taken power have varied greatly, and they continue to do so. To take what to me is the most obvious example, the Chinese Revolution, which relied on the peasantry, built stable revolutionary base areas, waged protracted people's war, surrounded the cities from the countryside, and ultimately seized nationwide political power by armed force, was very different in form from the events of October or November, depending on your calendar, 1917 in Russia. However, what they clearly had in common was the smashing of the old state as a prerequisite for the assumption of power. But today we cannot ignore the unfolding developments, as Carlos has also spoken about, principally in Latin America, although I believe they find echoes elsewhere, for example, in Nepal, where, in varying ways and with varying degrees of success to date, the working class is seeking to open a road to socialism that builds on electoral victory. In my view, it is too early to form a definitive judgment on this, but it can only be viewed from a standpoint of solidarity and support. Probably the most important single word in Marx's short sentence is simply. There is nothing here that is prescriptive in terms of how to take power and how to transform or to replace the state. What is most significant in terms of the unfolding political process in Latin America and elsewhere is precisely how the most advanced forces have, when the opportunity presents itself, and that is also an important consideration, as revolutionary opportunities cannot simply be willed into being, systematically attempted to repurpose and refound the state. This has taken the form of constituent assemblies to bypass and surpass old structures, the adoption of new constitutions, the creation of grassroots organs of popular power, and so on. Now, all this clearly goes beyond what even the best of radical social democracy has achieved or been able to achieve elsewhere, be that through the common program of the French Socialists under Mitterrand, together with the French Communist Party some decades back, or the experience of the Syriza government in Greece, the Corbyn project in Britain, and so on. But what has been most essential and fundamental in the most advanced examples of the transformation underway in Latin America has been to create people's armed forces in place of bourgeois armed forces, taking account of Engels's observation that the state is, in the final analysis, a body of armed men, and Mao Zedong's that political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. We see this most clearly in Venezuela and Nicaragua. In Venezuela, in no small part due to Hugo Chavez's own background in the armed forces, and in Nicaragua, where although the Sandinistas returned to power by winning an election and have continued to win elections, their power also rests on their initial seizure of state power following a long period of guerrilla struggle. What we see in essence is the unfolding of new types or variants of the dictatorship of the proletariat on the basis of the lessons learned starting from the Paris Commune. This is exactly, I believe, what Lenin foresaw and had in mind when he wrote in State and Revolution as follows. This is Lenin in State and Revolution. The essence of Marx's teaching on the state has been mastered only by those who understand that the dictatorship of a single class is necessary, not only for every class society in general, not only for the proletariat, which has overthrown the bourgeoisie, but also for the entire historical period which separates capitalism from classless society, from communism. The forms of bourgeois state, the forms of bourgeois states are extremely varied, but their essence is the same. All these states, whatever their form, in the final analysis, are inevitably the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. The transition from capitalism to communism certainly cannot but yield a tremendous abundance and variety of political forms, but the essence will inevitably be the same, the dictatorship of the proletariat. Now, as I believe it was Radhika already pointed out today, Lenin was actually writing State and Revolution prior to even the October Revolution. Yet even before the October Revolution, Lenin was able to grasp, at least in an overall general sense, that the dictatorship of the proletariat going forward would take a multiplicity of forms. In a March 1961 article for the 90th anniversary of the Commune, the Communist Party of China added to this formulation as follows: whatever forms the proletarian dictatorship takes, they all mean an extension of democracy, and that transition from superficial bourgeois democracy to genuine democracy, i.e. the democracy of the working people. And I would like to just finish by quoting from that 90th anniversary commemorative article by the Communist Party of China, which was published in Hongqi, Red Flag, again the journal that Ken mentioned, where a Chinese comrade called Qi Tongxiang wrote, "The Paris Commune lasted only 72 days. Although it met with defeat, the revolutionary spirit manifested by the proletariat in the struggle to found the Paris Commune is immortal. Its historic significance is tremendous, and its experience extremely precious for the revolutionary movement of the proletariat of the whole world." Thank you.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.